is June 3rd, 2025. It's our 2 o'clock Commissioners' Consent Agenda meeting. Let the record reflect that all 5 commissioners are present. And we will start with our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I did not receive any written comment for items on today's agenda. So then that will take us to our open public forum. I have 3 people that have signed up. So I'm starting with Julie McHugh. Julia, sorry.
I'll be reading today from an informal chronology that I've been keeping since way back when. This is my 15th presentation to this board. I'm Julia McHugh. I live in the Palisades neighborhood, West Plains. I live on a contaminated well every single day. I am about to install new filters at the tune of $250 just in my house. So we have been asking for over 6 months for a safe water task force. That, I understand, is very slowly taking shape. And in the meantime, we have thousands of people drinking PFAS-contaminated water. Why is that? Because there's been considerable heel dragging, monumental heel dragging. So, the chronology. 2017, Fairchild discovers they've contaminated Airway Heights municipal wells, shuts them down, provides them drinking water. The airport was invited by Fairchild to come to the open houses to explain this in the airport with Mr. French on the board. Mr. French, who never looks at anybody when they're up here telling his tales, declines to participate with Fairchild. And these are all in public records. This is not conjecture or fantasy on my part. I wish it were a fantasy. 2017, airport tests, finds lots of PFAS, drills 2 new wells, reports it to no one. 2018, does not repeat the testing and does not report the testing. This is the airport. 2019, they test more wells, they find some new, they're all basically PFAS contaminated, and then they miraculously test the swamp dump burn pit, where they practiced for decades on aircraft, aviation, fire suppression. PFAS going into a former wetlands for years and years and years. That's 2019. All wells exceed the PFAS. They do not report the testing. Mr. French has been on the board prior to this and since this. 2020, the airport declines to support Dr. Pritchard's EPA grant. It is a declined. The airport board directly declines it. This is a grant, not a loan, a grant. Mr. French is a board member. He's also our West Plains Commission representative. He's on the Spokane Regional Health Board, and he's also starting up the S3R3 West Plains Development Board. They all know about the PFAS. 20 to 21, Pritchard and Hermanson reconstitute the grant, submitted to Ecology. It's approved. Mr. French refuses to be briefed on this grant. It's not a loan. $450,000 to study our half of east half of the West Plains that the Fairchild study doesn't cover. We tussle over that for years. Then July 19th, 2022, 4 of us Palisades people met with Mr. French and his male assistant, and he says, well, I think Mrs. Cuny was on the health board at that time, and I don't know what happened to that, but I'll check in with it. He gets back to us and says, yeah, we'll take it. What I want to say is we've asked, hang on, we're dying out here. We want an aquifer protection area ballot issue. We want an update to the critical areas ordinance. We want this safe water task force.
Thank you, Julia.
I don't thank you, Ms. Cuny. You have
No,
a blaring
your
conflict
3
of
minutes
interest
is
here.
over, and if you would like to speak any further, then I'll ask you to leave.
Well, actually, I submitted a second
No,
sheet.
it is one person, so
We want
No.
the task force.
can you shut the mic off? Thank you. I'm sorry, I will keep the rules that we have in place. So next we have Becky Dickerhoff. And Becky, we did receive your letter as well.
Becky Dicker of Spokane City. I'm here today, as I am most weeks, to ask the county commissioners to enact what is commonly referred to as the 1590 tax. This ordinance, which amended RCW 82.14.530, allows the county legislative authority to impose a sales and use tax not to exceed 1/10 of 1% of the selling price in the case of a sales tax, or value of the article used in case of a sales use tax. This will allow the county to create more homes for the unsheltered. At least 60% of that money must be used for the construction of housing and related services. The balance must be used for the operation, delivery, or services related to housing. I try with every testimony to bring statistics that will show the dire situation Spokane County faces concerning low-income and affordable housing. Having a science background makes me value and utilize as much data as I can to support my conclusions. This week I am reeling from all the headlines that are meant to shock residents into action. What type of action depends on how you feel about the data. According to Investment News, there are 1,050 billionaires in the U.S. Washington has 12. AI considers Spokane probably has a couple. And as I mentioned last week, 90,509 living in the Spokane County are below the ALICE threshold. According to Ben Stuckert, Spokane Low Income Housing Consortium Director, construction costs are increasing an average of 8% per year. Insurance rates are rising at over 20% per year for low-income housing providers. The Washington State Department of Commerce shows that our region needs over 26,000 units of low-income housing over the next 20 years, yet we barely produce 200 a year with current funding. And yet, in the fiscal year 2025 budget currently under review in the U.S. Senate, there is a 44% cut to HUD's vital affordable housing, homelessness, and community development programs, and would impose changes to rental and homelessness assistance that would leave more families struggling to afford rent, and at increased risk of homelessness. I personally struggle with the concept that we in Spokane must choose between a new and improved county jail and housing for residents. As has been explained to me often, an improved county jail is very much needed. What I struggle with is the either-or concept. I fear the residents who are employed and living in their vehicle on the streets struggle with that also. Anecdotally, we are constantly hearing complaints from those on Nextdoor about homeless living in their vehicles, moving from parking space to space. I wonder if those living under such conditions are concerned about their own safety, are struggling with the jail versus available housing too. According to the Associated Press, tariffs are expected to increase prices for everyday items. CNBC News announced Walmart, Costco, Macy's, Best Buy, and Target either have or will soon raise prices due to tariffs. As the cost for basic needs in addition to housing increase, how will residents living on the edge of homelessness cope? My fear is we have not seen the peak of the homelessness crisis in Spokane County. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Kathy Gunderson.
Kathy Gunderson from the city of Spokane. I got very upset on Friday and I decided to be here today because I'm very upset still. According to the Friday paper, Spokesman Review on May 30th, the cooperation efforts clogged over utility tax. Really? The new sewage treatment plant opened in 2011 at the old Stockyard site within the city. I'm a lifer. I remember it well when it was functioning. Al French was on the city council and very pleased that it located and could service county residents that make up 80% of the load, which was on septic tanks prior to, which is over our sole source of drinking water, the aquifer. The bill has arrived, and now the county is outraged at the cost? Commissioner French, did you plan for this to slip by unnoticed? Very smooth language to not have this solidly down in 2011. I find this appalling that you would think that this was okay back then, and is this how you run a business? I would certainly hope not, because the bill is due now, and it's not up to the city of Spokane to pay the county's sewage bill. Take some action. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to testify at today's open public forum? You've already testified, Julia. Is there anyone else? Seeing no one online and no one else in the audience, I will close the open public forum, and I will look to my fellow commissioners.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve item 3A through N on today's 2 p.m. consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for items 3A through N on today's consent agenda, and is there any further discussion?
Thank you,
Commissioner
Madam
Jordan?
Chair. I just want to speak to item 3I. This relates to an interlocal agreement with the city to expand our sobering triage and transition services called STAT. This is a $400,000 investment from the city to co-invest what we've already put into the STARS expansion. It's all about having more sobering beds and triage services to respond to the drug crisis. So as the board knows we have an opioid and fentanyl crisis in the community. We know that according to the medical examiner, we had 352 individuals in the county pass away last year as a result of a drug overdose. 76% of those deaths were fentanyl related, according to the medical examiner, and we are seeing an increased pace, sadly, early in this year, based on a presentation we received earlier. So we, as commissioners, have many people in the community asking us, what are you doing? Are you acting? And I just think that this item reflects that we have been acting. We are acting. We will continue to do so. This is a ramping up of our regional response to this crisis. It is doing so in partnership with the city. So I thank Mayor Brown's administration for their support of this partnership, and the City Council, which voted unanimously last night to make this investment. And I think the fact that they are joining us in this partnership is a recognition of the great work of our community services team with Justin Johnson's leadership. And it is an example, in my opinion, of what's possible when the jurisdictions do decide to work together despite our differences, and there are differences. The data shows, according to what we've been briefed on, that these interventions do work. We are seeing some promising results. The vast majority of people who go through these STAT services when they are intoxicated and they're in a real crisis situation continue on into the next steps of that treatment journey, which is really important, and especially important that with STARS it's located right on site, which makes a big difference in terms of not losing people. So I think this item is about saving lives. It's about getting people who are addicted off the streets and into treatment. It's a place to go where they can do that rather than being out on the streets, which ultimately results in a safer community for all of us. So I hope we'll continue to look for opportunities to co-invest in solutions to shared regional problems wherever we can, and this will allow us to grow our STAT treatment slots to 24. So with that, I'm happy to support this item.
Very good. Seeing no one else, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to the end of our agenda. I will look to Mr. Simmons and our attorney if there's anything else.
Nothing further from me, Commissioner.
David? Okay, great. Thank you. Then that concludes our meeting for today, and we'll see everybody back next week. We do not have a standing closed session, but do we need a closed session? So Scott, would you like to explain?
Commissioners, thank you, Ashley, for reminding us. We do have a closed session for labor discussions
Okay,
right now. Yep.
very good. So we will clear the room. We'll have a closed session and sign some papers. Thank you, and we'll